Get ready for that football show with those fantasy guys.
Hello, and welcome to That Football Show with those fantasy guys.
And here at the quarter pole, we are those fantasy guys.
We certainly are, Jay. Every year at the quarter pole, you give our viewers a special treat. This year, it looks like you've got some things broken down for us that you want to talk about. So I'm going to let you take it away before the injury report.
All right, that's what's so great about TFS. Here at the quarter pole, it's time to evaluate your team. It's time to evaluate your season. It's time to evaluate what your plan is moving forward. As usual, if you're 500 or above, you're looking to make moves for the playoffs. You want to solidify your team, but make a move that's going to propel you in the playoffs. You can come look at me. And if you're under 500, scratching and clawing to make a playoff push, we have another expert at the table.
Listen, you excel at what you know, okay? So I'm here for all of us that made bad decisions, and we're going to scratch, and we're going to fight, and we're going to bite, and we're going to take you to the promised land.
That's what I'm saying is so great about TFS. We have people for both situations at all times.
You are fantastic. Why don't you move on to the segment now?
All right, so the quarter pole right now at this point, I have Kareem Hunt. I think it's an easy choice as your MVP. Before, as I told you in August, before Spencer Ware got hurt, I told you to get Kareem Hunt. As I said in August, before Spencer Ware got hurt, I told you Kareem Hunt is a perfect fit for Andy Reid's offense. And year to date, he has 68 carries for 502 yards and 6 touchdowns. And as I told you in August before Spencer Ware got hurt, the Chiefs have a prime time playoff matchup. The value that you got this guy, I don't know what round you drafted him in. I don't know if you drafted him before Spencer Ware got hurt, after Spencer Ware got hurt. It doesn't matter. You got this guy right here, Kareem Hunt. You are at least 4-2.
I just want to mention one other thing. First rookie running back to achieve 100 yards rushing in the first 4 games of his career since Adrian Peterson.
And we told you about him here in August.
That's good company.
That's great company.
Tell me who you got next for your quarter pole assessment.
My waiver wire pickup to this point, Chris Thompson. Wow. If you had drafted David Johnson, number 1, number 2, number 3, you lost him in the third quarter of the first game, and you were able to get your hands on this guy is so exciting. He might save your season. They're trying to keep him in the third down back row, but those other 2 backs aren't doing anything. He's the only running back in Washington doing anything. He might actually save your season. I don't know if David Johnson's coming back week 10, week 11, week 12, but if this guy can buoy you till you get there, and then you get David Johnson back to add to that lineup, what a free agent pickup, what a waiver wire pickup.
Yeah, and the deal there is Kelly cannot stay healthy. He was out with a rib injury, came back, got an ankle injury, went back out. They're hoping to have him back again after the bye, but who knows? I mean, this guy might be the guy all year. They have come out, the coaching staff has come out and said, we need to limit his touches because we need to keep him healthy because he's such an important part of our offense. But like you said, I mean, one guy's always hurt. The rookie can't get out of his own way. He's the only show in town right now.
What a waiver wire pickup. Number 3, I'm going for comeback player of the year. This is straight Todd Gurley. The kid is a beast. Anybody that doubted Todd Gurley is paying the price right now. Exactly. That's why he's comeback player of the year to this point. If you slept on Todd Gurley and let him get out of the first round, shame on you. The guy has a talent. He doesn't have a high school offense anymore. The sky's the limit for this guy also this year and moving forward, especially with the way the Rams are playing. Jared Goff, they got Sammy Watkins on the outside.
I'm the biggest advocate for the Rams. If I had an NFC team, it would be the Rams. But here's the problem. Even though they're the highest scoring offense so far, we talked about it last week. You need to sell high on Todd Gurley.
Oh, you're crazy.
That schedule is about to flip over.
You said that last week, and look what he did this week.
The schedule is about to flip over.
You're going to say that for the next 3 weeks.
Eventually, I'm going to be right.
You'll be right one time.
Come on, bring it on. What do you
got
next?
My bust, I don't know if you guys watch the show in August, but I told you the value of this guy is crazy high. Don't draft LaShawn McCoy in the first round.
You did.
Don't draft LaShawn McCoy in the second round. The Bills, surprisingly, are 3-1. For the reasons why I said not to draft LaShawn McCoy, it's a bonfire. Who knows what's going on in there? Blah blah blah. It doesn't matter. I told you not to draft him. His value is too high. You're not going to get value for your draft pick commodity. I don't even think he has a touchdown this year. Maybe he has one. But as far as I'm concerned, he was going around pick 6, 7, 8, 9 in the first round. Way overvalued. Should have went in the third or fourth.
Much more production as a receiver this year on that team because they just don't have the receiving options. And because of that, they just can't run the ball. So they're using him as a receiver. So if you're in a PPR league, not bad. Standard leagues, terrible.
Terrible. And now the who saw this coming. Right now, I'd rather have Deshaun Watson or Jared Goff over two-time Super Bowl champion Big Ben Roethlisberger, two-time Super Bowl champion Eli Manning, and future Chargers Ring of Honor
Hall of
Phillip
Fame.
Rivers.
Future Hall
I
of
would
Fame.
take both of these young guys over any of these established veterans. Their career is on this trajectory, while the best ones is this if it's not doing that. So it's really a changing of the guard with the young guys coming in the NFL. There's young rookie running backs, young rookie quarterbacks, second-year quarterbacks, second-year running backs. It's such an exciting time to be playing fantasy football.
It is. It is. Everything is changing. And speaking of which, a lot of changes come due to injury, and that brings us key injuries right now. We're going to see them on the screen. Jay, thank you for that quarter pole assessment. Look forward to your mid-season assessment.
Absolutely. Stay here so you can be there.
Right on. The injuries are Derek Carr was a big injury. Marcus Mariota, Dalvin Cook, Chris Carson. Some big names on the injury list this week. Amir Abdullah finally looking like a running back. Carlos Hyde, Rob Kelly, Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu, Devontae Adams with a vicious hit, but legal.
I agree.
Tyler Eifert and Jack Doyle. Those are the names. Who's jumping off the list at you?
Well, the one that's jumping off on me is Chris Carson. And it's because I feel like Chris Carson is a guy that David Johnson owners targeted after that injury. Then they pick up this guy, think he might be able to save the season, and then he's out for the year. So I just feel terrible for people in that situation.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the hunt for Red October. Okay, the teams on a bye this week are the Falcons, the Broncos, the Saints, and the Redskins. Who's fantasy relevant there?
I mean, we got Matty Ice, last year's MVP, of course, Julio Jones, top 10 pick, Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Demaryius Thomas, some guys on Washington.
Righto. So, Jay, here's what we're going to do. Finding the ultimate sub for our new viewers is our segment where we dive in deep into fantasy rosters, fantasy free agent wires, and we find guys that are out there that are owned in small percentage of the leagues where you can go out and you can add them for practically nothing and get a serviceable start out of them. So, Jay, tell us who you had last week for Sneaky Start, which has turned into Hunt for the Red
Absolutely.
October.
Last week I went out with Paul Richardson as my sneaky start. He had 3 targets, 3 receptions, 65 yards. Not a great sneaky start, but you certainly could have done worse.
Absolutely. You could have started, I don't know, Julio Jones.
You could have.
We'll get to that, though. Last week, my sneaky start was Jared Goff. He was 21 of 36 with 255 and 2 touchdowns. Jay, that could have very easily been 4 touchdowns if it had not been for the butter hands of his wide receivers in the end zone. So he almost had a fantastic day against that defense, but it really turned out to just be an acceptable sneaky start. Why don't you make it up for us this week and tell us who you got?
This week I'm coming at you live. I'm coming at you with Will Fuller. He's only owned in 22% of leagues.
I chose not to add him last week because I thought I had another week.
You had another week. Well, that week went by. He had 2 touchdowns in his first week. And let me tell you what, 2 touchdowns. He's going to be on a lot of people's radars, but he's worth the ad if you have to bid a little bit higher with the emergence of Deshaun Watson. He's got DeAndre Hopkins on the other side. So with DeAndre with DeAndre Hopkins on one side, he's not going to see any double coverage.
Yeah,
he's got
you're
Madden
preaching to the choir
certified
now.
speed, as I like to talk about, and evidently he's found his hands because he didn't have them last year, but he got 2 touchdowns this week. And I think I cannot overemphasize the emergence of Deshaun Watson. As Dabo Swinney said, if you pass on this guy, you're passing on Michael Jordan. People scoffed at him when he said that. Look at these last 3 weeks. It's not that far-fetched anymore. And with a quarterback that's hot, a wide receiver on the other side, this is a guy that you need to add. He's going to have a great week and a great future.
Jay, you mentioned the changing of the guard in the NFL, and it's coming on a team that I'd like to highlight right now. Kendall Wright is my hunt for Red October this week. He is the #1 wide receiver for the Chicago Bears by default. And the Bears will start Mitchell Trubisky at quarterback this week versus the Minnesota Vikings. And while the Minnesota Vikings have a good rushing defense, they rank 25th against the pass. They are allowing 10 yards per reception and have allowed 5 passing touchdowns. It's going to be they're going to be playing this game close to the line of scrimmage and daring the rookie to beat him over the top just like that. Can he? I don't know. But I'm willing to take a shot on Kendall Wright this week because, again, he's the default #1 wide receiver. And here's a stat that I love about Kendall Wright. He's been targeted 18 times. He's got 14 catches. Those are some pretty good hands. And that new quarterback is going to be looking to lean on somebody with good hands. I think that Kendall Wright gets most of the targets on that team this week. And I think he's a serviceable start. Maybe he's not a #1 or #2 wide receiver, but you could certainly slide him into your flex and hope for 75 yards, maybe a touchdown.
That's a fair assessment if you're looking at the flex. My only concern is if Xavier Rhodes lines up on him.
I understand. I understand your concern. Sometimes you just got to roll the dice in this segment. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
So let's move on to tough sits.
Sit down, Waldo.
And as I told you last week, my tough sit last week was Golden Tate. He had 5 targets, 3 receptions, 29 yards. That is being shut down, and that is a great sit, especially after the week he had before. Now, as we just mentioned, who's covering him?
Okay, well, we'll see what happens with my sneaky start. You know, don't doubt it until it happens. So that's all I got to say about that. My tough sit last week was Julio Jones, Jay. And Julio Jones had 4 targets, 3 receptions for 30 yards. So he had 1 yard more than your guy. Good for you. But that's not what you expect out of Julio Jones now. I will admit that Julio Jones went out of the game with an injury, but he did so late in the second quarter. And so if we doubled up his stats for the entire game, he would have had 3 catches for 60 yards. That Bills defense, as I mentioned, no joke. I didn't follow them this week. I thought it was too easy to go ahead and sit down the guy that they're taking on this week at wide receiver. But if you got A.J. Green, you might want to think twice about this week. Jay, who do you got for us this week?
This week, I'm staying out on the wide receiver limb. I'm going with Keenan Allen, who on the year has 24 catches, 334 yards, and a touchdown. He travels to the dreaded TFS staple, West Coast team playing at 1 o'clock on the East Coast. The Giants may be a train wreck, but that train wreck is nothing compared to what's going on in San Diego. And they have to come across the country to face 2 decent corners. I don't see the Chargers traveling cross country and bringing in their A game when they can't play their A game at home. I think this is the win for the Giants. I think Keenan Allen gets shut down. If you have another option, maybe play Golden Tate this week.
I respect the 1 o'clock West Coast East Coast matchup. I'm not going to comment on the Keenan Allen thing because I'm a Keenan Allen owner and I must start him this week due to injuries and bye weeks. However, I will say I got the Chargers winning this one, not the Giants. I think the Chargers go 1-4, and
not the Giants.
The Giants go 0-5. But that's just my call.
Battle of the cream puffs.
Exactly. My tough sit this week is Jordan Howard. On the season, he has 63 carries for 252 yards and 4 touchdowns. He runs behind one of the better offensive lines in the league and is having success doing so. However, this week, Howard and his Bears travel to Minnesota, as I just mentioned, to play on Monday Night Football. As I told you, they have a stout rushing defense that's only around 1 rushing touchdown and 70 yards per game. Also, the Mitchell Trubisky factor. They're going to be starting a rookie quarterback, and that defense is going to be expecting the Bears to want to come out and run the ball. They might have the cheerleaders in the box trying to stop Jordan Howard this week. I just don't see it for Howard. He's battling that shoulder injury still, even though he says he's healed. And like I said, they're really going to try and put the pressure on Trubisky to beat them and not let Howard do it. So if you have other options, sit him down. I think it's going to be a long night for Howard and his fantasy owners.
Fair enough.
Let's move on to Wall Street. You don't always have to have a prolific response. Thank you very much. And Jay, as I've mentioned many times, it's my favorite segment because we really get to talk about players that are deep on fantasy wires. Although this week, I will tell you, it was particularly challenging because of the injuries in the NFL this past week. It seems like all of the players that we normally talk about are somehow on everyone's radar because there were so many injuries that people are being forced to look at other options further down the depth chart. So these are probably names that you've heard, but these are the guys that we're going to recommend. So you want to get us going?
Absolutely. I'm going with a buy low, and this is more of a buy relatively low.
All right.
He's done nothing all year. He's had one good game. The quarterback play has been atrocious, but Andrew Luck is starting to practice this week.
He is practicing.
So with Andrew Luck practicing this week, you might want to try and get T.Y. Hilton before he plays the 49ers because he might put up decent numbers against the 49ers, and then you're going to have to pay more for him next week. But what I'm saying is if you can get T.Y. Hilton right now, you might have an owner that has wide receivers on a buy or running backs on a buy. You can trade him a running back for a wide receiver type of deal. Just take a look at the T.Y. Hilton owner, see what he needs, and see if you can get him something before Andrew Luck comes back and he's a top 10 wide receiver again.
So it's more like a buy moderate.
Buy moderate, high results possible.
I gotcha. Jay, I'm going to go with a buy low this week, and I'm going to go with Wayne Gallman.
Who?
Wayne Gallman.
Can you say that one more time?
Wayne Gallman. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but that's his name. On the season, he has 11 carries, 42 yards, and that receiving touchdown. He has been by far the most effective running back for the New York Giants behind a terrible offensive line. Jay, he's only owned in 32% of leagues. This is a guy you can go out and grab. And while Orleans Darkwa, who we mentioned earlier on the show, not today but in previous weeks, and Paul Perkins are still relatively healthy and expected to play, this is the guy that you want to pick up, and I'm going to tell you why. Every time the Giants were in the red zone last week, he was in the game. That's a guy I want on my team. Now, we have one more clip, and I want to show this clip. It's kind of fast, but I want you to see exactly why this is the guy that's going to be on the field. Now, don't look at the ball in this play. Look at Gilman coming out of the backfield and blowing up who?
Gerald McCoy.
And is he good?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my point is not only is he in the red zone, but when you get a running back to make blocks like that, coaches fall in love. This guy is going to see the field a bunch this week and moving forward. This is a guy you need to go out and add if you need running back help.
I like it. The reason why I like this pickup is because I watch this show to learn different things. I like to learn things from you, Rick. A couple of weeks ago, I learned about Buffalo's defense. I didn't buy it. I was wrong. Never even heard of this guy. I watched that game. Never even heard of this guy. So that's digging deep.
Every time they were in the red zone, he was there. He had a passing touchdown and, of course, the big block.
Boom!
I mean, like I said, coaches fall in love, and when coaches fall in love, guys see the field. It's the way to go. Let's move on to weekly leagues, Jay. This is your expertise. Tell us all about it.
I've been crushing the weekly leagues, and I'm going to do it again for you. I've already mentioned the guy, and I already mentioned to buy him low before he gets to play the 49ers. His dollar value is not very high. Doubling up on T.Y. Hilton. Buy low on him, play him in your weekly league. San Francisco is no good. They're going to give up a big play here, a big play there. Who's going to get both of them? T.Y. Hilton. I think he's going to have about 111 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Wow.
It might be on 3 catches.
Ooh. Wow, those are big predictions for T.Y. Hilton, but I don't know what his DraftKings price is, but I'm sure it's not much. So if that pans out, that's some great advice. Let's move on to the Facebook question. Of course, you can send us your questions on Facebook. This one says, who is the back to target in Seattle? Sean Brown wants to know who the back is to target in Seattle.
Well,
Jay, what do you got for Sean? Because
is beast mode there?
He's not.
No. I'm going to have to say there's really only one guy. It's Eddie Lacy. I mean, they have CJ Procise. He's the third down back. They got Thomas Rawls. He can't stay healthy. He's not even that good. I mean, I think that the Seahawks want to establish what they had when they had beast mode, where they can kind of clamp down on defense and grind it out and then have a thumper come in and finish the game off. And the only one of these three backs that has the potential to do that is Eddie Lacy. Personally, if I was looking for a running back, I would look elsewhere than Seattle's backfield.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't know if I want to get involved in this mess. I drafted both of these guys, and then when neither one of them were the starter, I cut them both. And once I cut them, I'm just kind of free and clear. Yeah. Sometimes you just got to let it go. But if you're desperate for running backs and you really need to be in that Seattle backfield.
Yeah, because if you're desperate for running backs, one of these guys is going to be the starter.
I guess, but you almost got to get them both.
Right.
You know, if that's the game plan, you almost got to get them both and see what pans out. That's what I was doing in the draft. When neither one of them surfaced to be a starter, I cut them. I'm going to leave them out there. I'm not getting involved.
I wouldn't get involved either, like I said. But if I was going to roll the dice, I'd have to roll the dice on the guy I know has done it before.
And there's also the CJ.
CJ Procise. He's the third down back.
The other one, JD, or maybe it's JD. There's a couple initials. He's actually a wide receiver. But
right.
he touched the ball twice and he had 2 30-yard touchdowns.
But that
one
doesn't
rushing,
help you
one
if you're
receiving.
looking for a running back.
I hear you. I understand what you're saying. But if they keep lining him up in the backfield, maybe his availability will change.
Or maybe, possibly.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for Week 5 of That Football Show with those fantasy guys.
We are those fantasy guys. Love the first 4 weeks. Come back next week so we can get you to the middle of the season.